Today we have a crazy story of somebody creating an alter ego as a bit, and now the alter ego shows up on their credit report. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I messed up by never using my core muscles for 30 years. This is probably gonna sound dumb, and that's because it is. My balance, male, has always been crappy. I attributed that to the fact that during puberty I grew 1 foot taller in a single year. I figured my body never got adjusted to the new equilibrium because it happened so quickly. I never gave it any thought beyond that. So one day I was stretching before a run and had moved on to the flamingo stretch, the quad stretch where you stand on one leg. My wife was there and she likes to poke fun at my lack of balance. It's just some lighthearted ribbing, it's no big deal. So I was hopping on 1 foot and flailing my arms. My wife was laughing at me, and she uttered those fateful words, "It's like you're not using your core at all." Me, an idiot, replied, "Why would I use my core? I'm balancing on my leg." She said, "Wait, what do you mean? Your balance comes from your core." I said, "I'm not using my core, I'm using my legs." She said, "You're not flexing your core at all?" I said, "No, that's stupid. Why would I need my core to balance on my leg?" She said, "Flex your core right now. Just do it." So I flexed my abs and I immediately stopped wobbling over and stood upright. I said, "Huh, that's weird." The wife said, "Have you been balancing without your core this whole time?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so. I didn't think I needed it." She said, "How the freak have you been balancing without your core?" I said, "Well, badly. I didn't know I needed to do it." She replied, "You have to use your core for everything. Why wouldn't you need it to balance?" I replied, "I don't really use my core all that often." The wife replied, "What?" So after that, I would just be doing a normal activity, like carrying one of our kids in my arms, and my wife would ask me if I was using my core. So I would start flexing my core, and my kid would get easier to carry? Or she would ask me how I do something. For instance, how do I get in a car? Well, I bend my legs and just sort of fall backwards into the seat. After a few days of this, something clicked in my brain. I loved sports as a kid. I played them all the time, nearly every day, but I was always bad at them. My balance was awful and I was uncoordinated. I was a terrible swimmer. I was weak. I was so weak, in fact, that I never understood when people would say that men are so much stronger than women. My wife could overpower me when she wanted to. I would struggle and strain and she would push me back. It was a bit humiliating, but I never let her know that. Well, it took some training, but eventually I started instinctively using my core for everything. I started using it while walking, while lifting things, even just standing in one spot, I use my core now. It's been 2 years and I sometimes can't believe the change I've seen. I'm 33 and I'm the strongest I've ever been. I can do things with ease that I used to struggle with. I'm stronger than my wife now, which is an ego boost. I beat my half marathon time by 30 minutes, from 2:20 to 1:50. This summer, I started lifting weights to get even stronger. I love how I feel now. My confidence is higher and I'm a happier person. I'm not sure how I never learned to use my core muscles for anything. I do wonder how strong I could have gotten in my 20s if I'd been using my body the way I was supposed to. I don't dwell on it, I'm just glad that I was able to change my body when I did. I never would have thought that a playful jibe from my wife would change my life so much. Core muscles are kind of like the backbone of almost anything you do. I don't know if it sounds obvious or maybe it sounds, on the other hand, crazy, but I have to make sure that I'm using my core muscles when just reading these posts, or else it can lead to very unhealthy neck and throat muscle usage over an extended period of time talking, at least when you're trying to do something like halfway decent narrating or especially singing. Super Caliber commented, "This makes me think I've been not using my core for even longer." Roomba Sailor commented, "This is so odd to me because I don't have to think about using my core for everyday activities. I just do it by instinct. I would have assumed this is true for everyone. The only time I think about actively bracing my core is during certain weightlifting exercises." And also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of Redditors who severely messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, today I messed up by wearing my normal clothes to a work dinner. I work at this place since May, so I'm pretty new. I'm a goth, and my fashion sense is a bit eccentric. Not in the way that I wear white face paint and toupee my hair, but in the way the always overdressed, frills and bows all day and never wears pants way. Say Victorian Gothic. Also completely dressed in black with maybe a few color accents when I feel like it. At work, I follow the dress code. Boring, tasteless plain clothing ordered from Shein in the happy colors brown and beige. No offense, but it feels horrid wearing them. Like SpongeBob in that episode where he's normal. I know it may sound edgy, but wearing plain clothes has always been uncomfortable to me. My coworkers decided on a Christmas dinner, which would take place in a small group of 9 to 10 people at a restaurant in town. Because it's a private meeting and everyone said they would wear their normal pretty clothes, their words, not mine, I decided to wear mine as well. Mind you, I don't have any normal clothes besides my few pieces that I wear at work. So I wouldn't even have fancy non-black/non-goth attire. I decided to go for a Christmas black and red combination, picking a black blouse, fluffy skirt, and red bolero, which fit the little red ribbon I put in my hair. Light makeup without lipstick because eating in black ballerinas. At the restaurant, everyone wore something casual. Freak, literally jeans, maybe a pretty jacket, but that's it. I was sticking out very badly. My coworkers were shocked when they saw me, looked at each other in a telling way, one even laughing and going, "Okay, guess OP really takes this seriously." Now add whispering after I left for the restroom and quick stopping of whispering when they noticed me coming back. Welp, this place doesn't pay that well anyways. So I definitely think like the whispered talking sucks, but is it wrong of me to say that when you're showing up to a work function that was described as casual or even pretty clothes, if you show up wearing something that is unexpected, like probably what OP wore, you should expect at least like surprised glances or expressions or something? Not even necessarily rude, it's unexpected. Big Fat Cow Turd commented, "Goths always seem to get surprised/borderline upset when they go all out with their attire to a place where people are dressed normally and react accordingly. My brother is the same way, wondered why people at church treated him like a freak when he showed up in corpse paint and trip pants." Our next story is, today I messed up, lied about my boyfriend's race in a job interview, and now my potential future boss wants to meet him. It is pretty much as the title says. I had a job interview and told the interviewer, my potential future boss, that part of the reason I want/need to learn Spanish is because my boyfriend is from Argentina and is fluent in Spanish, and so is his whole family. Which is a partial lie. He is fluent in Spanish, and I do want to learn. He's just not Argentinian, he's actually Canadian. I know it was wrong to lie, but I wanted the interviewer to really believe I have a desire to brush up on my Spanish. Which I definitely do. Anyways, now he wants to take both of us out to dinner. It's a small company, so this isn't too unusual, I guess. And I don't know how to confront this lie. Do I fess up? Have him fake sick? Somehow skate my way out of it? I know this was a huge mess up on my part, but I'm not sure how to get out of it, and any advice is appreciated. So I would say OP probably has one of two options here. Either they fess up and they're honest about it, or they tell their boyfriend to say, no matter what, that they are from Argentina, and race aside, Argentinians aren't all one race. The only problem with number two would be if the boyfriend went along and the boss says, "So tell me about your family. What was it like growing up in Argentina?" Sprible commented, "We broke up." "Oh, meet my new boyfriend." Charlotte Dave commented, "She turned a tiny lie into an entire series on Netflix." Our next story is, today I messed up by not realizing my neighbors have a Ring doorbell. So the lady that lives next door just came by to thank me for giving them a giggle. The FedEx guy, I accidentally slandered our mail lady, accidentally delivered a package for them to my house. And of course I was gonna go drop it off. It's like 30 steps round trip. Well, I overthink everything. I set it on their porch in front of the gate that goes across their steps and went to walk away. Then I was like, oh, but I'm not sure if they're actually home right now, so what if they go to leave the house and knock it down the stairs with the gate? That wouldn't be very fun, and I'd feel awful if whatever's in the box is broken. So I picked it up and moved it to the other side of the gate, but then I realized it was getting dark, and I didn't want them to open the gate and trip over it. So I picked it back up, I want to avoid bothering them, so coming back later when I see or hear because she's a Borky girl, the dog let out is absolutely out of the question. At this point, I'm just holding the package and walking up to the porch and stepping back to try and gauge where the streetlight would hit their porch when it kicks on, and I eventually settle on a good spot and half run home because thank goodness nobody's ever going to see this. Well, after asking what the neighbor meant by that, she explained that it was really funny to see me just basically walking in circles, especially if you sped up the footage a bit. She showed me the footage. I do in fact look like an idiot, but it is in fact kind of hilarious. At one point, it even kind of looks like I'm waltzing with the box. TLDR, I tried to do something nice by returning a misdelivered package, ended up looking like an idiot, and may or may not end up in a TikTok with the Benny Hill theme song playing while I goofily stumble around trying to figure out where to put a box on the porch. Editing to add a couple of things. First of all, I don't have the footage. My neighbor showed it to me on her phone. I didn't tell her not to post it anywhere, but my face also doesn't hide what I'm feeling, so I'm pretty sure that she could see I wasn't comfortable with the whole thing. Second, due to the pressure from random people in the comments, I've written her a note to see if she does plan on uploading it anywhere. If she does end up posting it, I'll add the link to this post, but as for right now, I'm keeping my physical self off of Reddit, as I do enjoy the fact that nobody here knows what I look like. Does anybody else agree with me that there's nothing more intrinsically embarrassing than just seeing yourself on camera like that, especially when you never meant to be on camera in that moment? If there's one thing that I would absolutely be mortified about, it's seeing a video of me on a Ring doorbell camera waltzing around with a box while hearing the burp 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 in my head, let alone if I ever heard the words, "I'm gonna post this on TikTok." I just wanted to make sure your package got back to you. Honeytouch commented, "This is the most accurate representation of adulthood I've ever read." Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally making my entire extended family think I'm a drug dealer. I've been selling on eBay for like 6 months now, mostly electronics and vintage stuff I find at thrift stores. Nothing crazy, but I've been making decent side money and actually managed to save a couple of $100, which felt pretty good. Anyways, I keep all my inventory in these white plastic bags in my car trunk, cause I'm too lazy to bring them inside. At a wedding earlier this month, I parked kind of far and my aunt needed her phone charger from her car. I offered to grab it since I was heading out anyway to get something from mine. I pop my trunk and there's literally like 15 white plastic bags stuffed with random electronics, cords, old iPods, you name it. I grab what I need and close it. Apparently, my uncle saw me and caught a glimpse of me shutting a trunk full of white bags. He tells my other uncle. They tell my mom. By the time I get back inside for dinner, there's this weird vibe and people keep giving me looks. Finally, my mom pulls me aside all concerned and asks if everything is okay and if I need help with anything. I'm so confused until she straight up asks me if I'm selling drugs. Turns out half of my family now thinks those bags are full of pills or something. I've been treating my family to dinner more often lately since I actually have some money saved aside, and apparently that just made them more suspicious. Like me picking up the tab at restaurants was somehow proof I was dealing. My mom literally said, "We've noticed you've been spending more," like it was evidence. I had to literally show them my eBay account and explain what I actually do. My cousin was dying laughing, but my grandma still looks at me weird. Pretty sure Thanksgiving is going to be awkward as heck now. You know what this story reminds me of? I've been a pretty avid watcher of Hell's Kitchen for a while. I remember a good few years back, there was one season where it was like getting down to the nitty-gritty of like the last couple people. And all of a sudden they have a scene where Gordon Ramsay walks into the dorms, which he almost never goes into, and he's holding these giant, thick, white wrapped bag looking things. And he starts going off about how security apparently searched the dorms and found these giant bags of drugs, like ludicrously big, and tried to pass it off somehow. Ended up actually just being a big joke and being the final competitor chef jackets. But the bags/bricks were so big and so gaudy, it was easily like ridiculously unbelievable. Like the size of double protein, fully stuffed Chipotle burritos. I mean, how do you see a bunch of white bags, I'm assuming trash bags, in somebody's trunk, and you just immediately jump to, oh, that has to be illegal substances? Pants Don't Have Answers commented, "Who sees white bags in a car and assumes they're full of drugs?" Our next story is, today I messed up by staring at a stranger. My friend and I went out for dinner, but as soon as we arrived at the restaurant, he disappeared to use the restroom, leaving me sitting alone for a few minutes. My eyes wandered and I noticed another guy sitting alone. He looked familiar, but I struggled to figure out why, so I stared at him without realizing I was staring until he unexpectedly locked eyes with me, which automatically prompted me to look away. When I attempted to sneakily look back to see if he was still looking at me, he was on his way towards my table. The two of us awkwardly greeted each other before literally asking the same question, "Do I know you?" The answer was unclear. We shared our names, we shared the names of our friends, family, colleagues, exes, but nothing brought us any closer to figuring out why our faces looked familiar. After failing to connect the dots, we decided to move on. Dude returned to his table after telling me that his date would be arriving soon. I eventually informed my friend of everything he missed with the hope that maybe my friend would recognize the guy and potentially solve the mystery. But alas, my friend was of no help at all. Fast forward to the guy reappearing at my table while my friend and I were eating. The guy said something hospital? I was confused. The guy noticed my confusion and said he was in the hospital bed next to mine. He said I was wearing a neck brace. I was beginning to remember, but before I could open my mouth, the guy provided another detail to refresh my memory. He said I was the guy who sprained my neck after attempting to suck my own you-know-what. I said, "I remembered," louder than I needed to. The guy said he remembered me being high on meds and feeling very proud of how close I came to making contact. I looked at my friend's face at that moment and accepted the fact that I was freaking cooked. The secret I've managed to keep for over a year was out. The following day, everyone in my circle of friends knew that I almost broke my neck trying to achieve that. The response has been exactly what you would expect from a group of guys in their early 20s. "Thanks, random stranger." See, here's the thing. Did OP go to the emergency room and explain what happened to cause that? Because, I don't know, I feel like I would try to come up with any other explanation. Say you were trying to do sit-ups or something without using your core muscles like that other guy did. I was trying to do sit-ups with my neck muscles only. It was dumb of me. Anything OP could have come up with to avoid explaining to the doctor that they tried to make contact. No Membership 1027 commented, "Brother, the CIA wouldn't get me to disclose that info." Moron Lao Shi replied, "High on meds though? I don't know. I think you're going to spill the beans." Our next story is, today I messed up by creating an alter ego as a bit, and this alter ego now shows up on my credit report and background check. So technically it was not today, but today was the day I realized how extensive the issue is. To back up about 10 years, I created this fake persona as a joke to freak with my boss at the time, who had a good sense of humor but was insanely gullible. He was frantically trying to hire for a sales position and wasn't getting any applicants and said, "I'd hire about anyone right now." So I said, "Okay." I created this ridiculously outlandish but believable resume with a bunch of funny titles and job responsibilities for this southern redneck named Ricky, who was the assistant to the VP of local janitorial operations at Chuck E. Cheese, a semi-retired rock star who liked to play at the bars, and an ex-pit stop mechanic for Dale back in the day. I created a whole crazy backstory on a cover letter and applied for the job, but made it sound almost believable. I even went as far as to trim my beard down to a Hulk Hogan stash, and I have this mullet wig I used for a Joe Dirt costume in middle school, and sent him an email a few days after applying with a really cringe candid headshot my girlfriend at the time took and sent it to him. In the emails, I told him I was gonna roll up to the office soon on the spot for an interview because he would have been stupid not to hire me. He had no idea it was me, so I started freaking with him even more and calling his office phone doing my deep southern accent. Not hard because I grew up in the South and have an accent in me, so I basically drop my voice an octave and do a Blake Shelton impression. and telling him I was ready to work, and he was mildly concerned this weirdo was going to show up one day. I told absolutely nobody I was doing this and was dying hearing him talk to colleagues about this weird dude who keeps calling him. Then, on a Friday before a holiday, I came into the office with a wig, stash, jean jacket, my boots, and an Ozzy Osbourne shirt I found at Goodwill and kept in character for most of the day. The rest of the company found out about this and thought it was the funniest thing ever, as did my friends and family, so it became kind of a bit and evolved into this redneck alter ego thing. We had this office that was repurposed as a storage room nobody went into, and they put a nameplate on the door for Ricky, and from what I understand, that was Ricky's office for several years even after I left. From there, I created a Facebook page, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, etc. over a period of several years. I would just post stupid crap here and there like crazy redneck stories he had and horrendous grammar, random YouTube videos, and just random stuff. It became like a lore at this point, and I've just kept it going because I've had fun with it. My friends will contact me and say, "What's old Slick Rick been getting into these days?" And I got really proficient at Photoshop, so I would put him into pictures and create a funny backstory as to how he got there. He was absolutely in attendance at the inauguration this year, and I've put out a couple of songs in his voice where I played the guitar intentionally crappy and did a diss track a few months ago. I literally learned how to play guitar decently so I could intentionally do it slightly off tune. It has been a really good way for me to connect with a lot of my friends in different places I don't see often anymore, and makes me happy I know it makes them smile. It got to a point where it started to overlap, and I let the hillbilly heck raisin energy carry over into my daily life a bit, and can flip the accent on and off. I work as a sales director in a leadership position at a software company now that's pretty high stress sometimes, so it's almost like an outlet where I can tune down my IQ a lot and just do stupid crap and not take life so serious. Nothing wrong with bringing a little laughter into people's lives, and I still think it's hilarious making stuff up for it. His slogan is mopping floors, drinking Coors, and I bought a C8 Corvette a few years ago and really played into the trailer park Ferrari jokes. But it makes me really happy this stupid bit brings laughter to the lives of people I care about a decade later, and I literally cackle when I create stupid scenarios and posts for them. I'll go look through them sometimes, and I'm like, how the freak did I even come up with that? Anyways, I started using his namesake for random things, burner emails, things I don't want to sign up for using my name, referrals for services, etc. Basically, I signed him up for everything I didn't want to, or as an extra account legally that doesn't require a social security number. Ol' Ricky has a crap ton of Starbucks rewards, that's for dang sure. This was all fun and games until today. My wife and I are currently trying to sell our current home, and we put in an offer that was accepted this morning. When working with the lender today, I have a credit monitoring program, and I called and asked a few verification questions since I have my credit, and one of them came up and asked for known associates, and Ricky, last name, came up. And I was like, what? After looking at my credit report, when my wife and I got married 2 years ago, we ended up renting out her home to this really kind older gentleman who still lives there. However, on not only my credit report, but my wife's, it shows Ricky as the tenant and a known associate on background checks and searches. It also shows him as a co-tenant at a corporate apartment I rented 5 years ago at every credit agency. He apparently even shows up in his own background checks minus a social. I'm assuming this is due to data mining crap, but this is specifically problematic because when I brought this up to our lender and said, that's a problem as we intend to keep the rental, somehow our actual tenant doesn't even show up for them and they just see Ricky. That was very difficult to articulate. Ricky is someone who doesn't exist, but we have an actual renter who does exist, but doesn't show up as a tenant other than the lease documents we have. I'm just trying to figure out how, when making these lease agreements, somehow that got confused in, the data mining information gathering process, and they somehow marked down the Ricky last name hillbilly character as the tenant. How does that even happen? I don't actually know if you have to do any filing of a tenant agreement or something, but it's both impressive how much they managed to screw that up and downright scary that they were able to somehow grab and find that info. Dream Crush commented, "Is it possible Ricky is real and you're the alter ego?" OP replied, "I question this quite often. Ricky is basically the opportunity to unironically exercise my low IQ redneck side, and I love it." Our next story is, "Today I messed up by being bad at games. I just want to play games with my boyfriend, but the caveat is that I'm not at the same caliber as he is with games, so there's a skill difference. Yeah, I suck. Time to get good, whatever. Today, just an hour ago, we finished playing Apex, wildcard, not even ranked, and boyfriend was just done. Complete silent treatment. He just walked away. Then he came back and said, unless he's streaming, we are not playing games together because he'll just get mad at me, and if he is streaming, he'll be able to keep himself in check. That's just an excuse though. I don't stream and he won't stream with me there, so I can read between the lines. I was never good at shooting games, and this honestly hurt a lot. I just wanted to game with him because he seems to have so much fun laughing and joking and such with his other friends. But with me, every game he just goes silent and sullen. I'm so sad and honestly more than a little heartbroken. Edit, my boyfriend is good to me usually. We're not breaking up, but this has been eye-opening. I will try to talk to him. And yes, he is very competitive. He was a former esports player, so the skill between us is vast. It's like if Steph Curry's got a kindergartner on his team and he's up against the Lakers. I kind of feel this post, in a way. Anytime I've ever played most things with friends, I always kind of feel like I'm bringing them down a bit. Granted, I've been told numerous times by my friends, it doesn't matter if I'm not that great, we're just having fun together and whatnot. But for example, if I'm playing Rocket League with friends and they're all doing aerials and saving all of the shots on our own goal that I miss, there is a little bit of a discouraging kind of aura to it for me. I'm always secretly in the back of my mind they hate playing with me, I know it, I'm just not good enough. That said, if they're not compatible with those kinds of games, I would really hope that he puts in enough effort to try to find something that would be fun for the two of them to play together. Bumble Dragoness commented, it's his mindset. If he was playing with the goal to have fun with you, he would. It seems he's playing with the mindset to win, hence frustration when you're not at his skill level. He should pick games you play or set games to easier game modes instead of a blanket ban like this. He also shouldn't need an excuse of extra eyes on him to remind him to keep himself in check. Don't yell at girlfriend is a very basic rule. Our next story is, today I messed up thinking the fact I never burped was just a quirk. Background, I get incredibly painful symptoms of reflux, and over the past 10 years, I've undergone multiple tests, including 3 gastroscopies, a barium swallow, and a manometry and 24 hours pH study. A test where I needed to have 2 tubes shoved down my nose into my stomach fully awake. I frequently need to go home early from things due to the severity of my symptoms. It's been pretty isolating. A few months ago, I was at a friend's house and we were discussing people who claim they never fart and how absurd this sounds. I told her and her husband that I never burp, which they pointed out would be terribly painful. I decided to Google it. This is a thing, but it's a medical condition, and every single one of my symptoms was listed as a symptom of this condition. Went to an ENT with my newfound information. Turns out I do have the condition, RCPD. Relatively easy to fix with Botox. It had never occurred to me that I was physically unable to burp. I just always thought it was a bit of a quirk that I didn't. Thousands of dollars and many uncomfortable tests for seemingly nothing. I was going to say, how did OP have so many tests and see so many experts, or doctors at least, and not have it figured out until I found out apparently this is a relatively new discovery? Soster2412 commented, fun fact, the official name wasn't coined until 2019, and it was actually the subreddit r/noburp that increased the fascination and research surrounding it, and an increase in Botox treatments to fix it, with many doctors offering it being a part of the subreddit. Basically, some guy went, there are thousands of people in a subreddit who can't burp? I wonder why. and then did some research to discover that someone was cured using Botox, and it grew from there. Oasis Ninja Bat replied, "Farmer No Burper here. Finding r/no burp in 2020 made my life much better. I trained myself to burp. It was life-changing." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of a Redditor severely messing up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.